What if I told you the entire chaotic, totally unpredictable blueprint of human romance could be completely decoded using a title and just four isolated words?
I mean, I would probably say you were talking about a statistical nightmare.
Right, because you normally picture love unfolding in this sprawling, infinite world. You lock eyes on a crowded subway, or you navigate some convoluted chain of mutual friends.
Yeah, or you just stumble through a blind date at a really noisy coffee shop.
Exactly. It is a game of endless, messy variables.
Millions of moving parts. There's this constant external distraction and a barrage of competing sensory inputs that make it, well, nearly impossible to figure out why two specific humans actually gravitate toward one another.
Which is exactly why today's source material is so uniquely captivating. Welcome to our deep dive.
Thanks. I'm really excited for this one.
We are taking a laser-focused look at a piece of source material that is absurdly minimalist, but it is conceptually so dense it feels like we are reverse engineering an alien artifact.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, the document is so stripped down that calling it minimalist almost feels like an understatement.
It is crazy. We are analyzing a short, standalone document titled Celestial Compatibility of the Island. And the entirety of the provided text, like the only clue we have to decode this entire framework, is a single, highly evocative phrase.
Right, just those four words sitting underneath that title. Love Island zodiac signs.
That is it. That is the whole thing.
But those four words carry a staggering amount of philosophical and, honestly, psychological weight.
They really do.
They represent this massive, intentional collision between infinite ancient cosmology and a highly constructed, finite modern environment.
So our mission for this deep dive is to aggressively deconstruct this fragment. We need to figure out how to interpret this bizarre intersection.
Yeah, like how does the grand cosmic fatalism implied by celestial compatibility and zodiac signs actually operate?
Especially when you trap it inside an isolated, high-stakes romantic environment like a love island. Okay, let's unpack this.
We really need to start at the very top with the framework the author has established, the title itself, Celestial Compatibility of the Island.
Right.
What's fascinating here is the deliberate, almost aggressive choice of the word celestial. It instantly bypasses all our normal metrics for human matchmaking.
Yeah, because we usually define compatibility through psychology or sociology, right? Like, do you share similar financial goals?
Exactly. Do you have complementary attachment styles? Do you both enjoy hiking?
We look at compatibility as an earthly achievement. It is something two people actively build or figure out through trial and error.
But this text rejects that premise entirely. By declaring the compatibility celestial, it reframes human connection from a conscious choice into like a fundamental law of physics.
Oh, wow. So it is not a choice at all.
Right. The underlying logic posits that the blueprint for how two human beings will interact was mathematically written light years away.
Dictated by the alignment of stars and planets.
Long before those two people ever existed. It implies that human connection operates on the same undeniable level as electromagnetism or thermodynamics.
I am picturing this like the ultimate ancient algorithm, because if you think about a modern dating app, there is a server in a basement somewhere crunching data.
Yeah, analyzing your location radius, your height preferences.
Your music tastes, just frantically trying to calculate a match. But celestial compatibility suggests the algorithm is the literal rotation of our galaxy.
That analogy gets right to the heart of it, actually, because an algorithm leaves absolutely no room for ambiguity.
Right.
It implies an absolute mathematical correctness to whether two people belong together.
Right.
It strips away the messy earthly context.
So it suggests that compatibility is an immutable truth that exists entirely independently of the people involved.
Exactly.
But this is exactly where I am struggling to understand the logic of the source document.
Oh, how so?
Well, if we accept this premise, if the compatibility is genuinely celestial,
Right.
immutable, and permanently fixed in the stars,
Yes.
then why does the title explicitly mandate a specific geographical location? Why is it the celestial compatibility of the island?
Yeah.
Because if a grand cosmic law dictates that two specific zodiac signs are destined to fall in love, that law shouldn't require a tropical beach to activate. It should just happen whether they are on an island or, stuck in traffic on a Tuesday.
That contradiction is the central narrative tension holding these concepts together.
It just feels like a paradox. Like, why construct an artificial earthly variable to test a universal cosmic rule?
Well, think about the mechanics of observing a universal constant, like gravity, for example.
Okay.
Gravity works everywhere, all the time. But if you want to observe its purest mathematical form, you cannot just drop a feather and a bowling ball out of a window.
Right, because of the interference of the everyday world. Wind resistance, friction, atmospheric pressure.
Exactly. All that earthly interference corrupts the data. So to see the universal law clearly, physicists have to build an environment that completely strips away the world.
They build a vacuum chamber.
Yes. A vacuum chamber. The universal rule of gravity never changes. But the highly controlled environment dictates how cleanly and how rapidly you can observe the truth of it.
Oh, wow. So the island is the vacuum chamber for human connection.
Precisely.
The stars provide the gravity, but the island removes the wind resistance.
That is exactly how it functions.
You know, as you were listening to this, I want you to think about how heavily we lean on these grand external frameworks in our own lives to make sense of our relationships.
Well, constantly.
We constantly seek out an overarching narrative, whether it is astrology or fate or even just calling someone our soulmate.
Yeah, to explain why a specific interaction feels so incredibly powerful.
Right. We desperately crave a cosmic validation to reassure us that our chaotic earthly interactions actually have a deeper meaning.
And we seek out those frameworks because, honestly, interpersonal connection is fundamentally terrifying.
It really is.
It is entirely unpredictable and outside of our control. So, mapping a terrifying emotion onto a grand celestial framework provides a profound cognitive relief.
It gives us the illusion that the chaos is actually highly organized.
Exactly.
Which brings us crashing down from the macro scale of the infinite universe directly into the microscopic scale of the text, the closed system.
The island variable.
Right. If the cosmos dictates the raw laws of the game, the island is the highly restrictive laboratory where the experiment is forcibly run.
Right. Let's really scrutinize the phrasing of the island and that first half of the excerpt, Love Island.
Yeah, what is happening there?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of human behavioral mechanics, the concept of an island operates as a totally sealed ecosystem.
A closed loop.
Yeah. In our normal sprawling reality, compatibility is constantly being diffused and tested by 1,000 mundane variables.
Like your daily commute, or you are stressed about an email from your boss.
Your phone battery's dying, you have to do laundry. All of this background noise absorbs a massive amount of your emotional energy.
So the slow daily grind acts as a buffer.
Yes, exactly.
Like if you get annoyed with a partner, that annoyance is diluted by the simple fact that you have to go to work and look at a spreadsheet for 8 hours.
Precisely. And removing that buffer changes the entire chemical makeup of an interaction.
That makes sense.
On an island, specifically one designated as a love island, you are intentionally severing the subjects from every single external escape hatch.
You are totally stripping away the background noise.
And when you restrict environmental stimuli, the human brain automatically becomes hyper-focused on whatever stimuli remain.
It is like walking into an anechoic chamber. You know those rooms designed to absorb all sound?
Oh yeah, the silent rooms.
Right. You remove the hum of the refrigerator and the traffic outside, and suddenly the sound of your own heartbeat is so loud it becomes deafening.
That is a great comparison.
So on this island, the other people are at the heartbeat.
Absolutely. The mechanism of isolation forces total engagement. You cannot diffuse an argument by texting a friend or, going for a drive.
The friction has literally nowhere to dissipate.
And that is precisely how this environment takes a spark of celestial compatibility and accelerates it into a roaring fire in a matter of days.
The emotional velocity is artificially multiplied.
Simply because there is nowhere else to direct human attention.
I have to challenge this premise, though.
Okay, go ahead.
We established that the goal of this framework is to observe a fundamental celestial compatibility. But does an isolated Love Island environment actually reveal a pure underlying truth about two people?
Ah, I see where you're going.
Like, does that extreme unnatural isolation manufacture a completely false reality? Let's go back to the anechoic chamber analogy for a second.
Okay.
If you leave someone in total silence for too long, their brain starts hallucinating sounds just to cope with the lack of input.
Right, sensory deprivation.
So on a Love Island, are these people actually experiencing deep cosmic compatibility? Or are they just forming trauma bonds out of sheer isolation, extreme boredom, and a desperate biological need for stimulation?
Oh, that is brilliant. You are essentially identifying the Heisenberg uncertainty principle of romance.
The act of observing the phenomenon inherently alters the phenomenon.
Exactly. Are we witnessing their true, unvarnished celestial nature, or are we merely observing their psychological reaction to confinement?
Because, honestly, If you take that intensely bonded pair off the island and drop them back into a noisy city with spreadsheets and bad Wi-Fi,
The connection might evaporate the moment the isolation ends.
yeah, it makes you wonder if the island functions as a magnifying glass revealing the truth of the stars, or if it is just a funhouse mirror completely distorting it.
Well, the text suggests a pretty terrifying synthesis of the two. The environment might actually be the required catalyst for the compatibility to exist at all.
Wait, really?
Yeah, think of it like aerodynamics. An airplane wing has the mathematical, physical potential to create lift, right?
Right.
That potential is a universal fact. But the wing cannot actually generate that lift until you force it into a wind tunnel and blast it with high-velocity air.
Oh.
The potential was mathematically present, but the extreme environment was absolutely mandatory to manifest it. The island is the wind tunnel.
The island provides the high-velocity air. It literally forces the issue.
It does.
And that requires us to look at exactly what is being put into this wind tunnel. We have the cosmic law and we have the isolated laboratory. Now we need to examine the specific metric used to define the human subjects.
Yes, the final piece of the puzzle.
Let's look at the second half of our incredibly brief source document, the phrase zodiac signs.
Right. This specific phrasing reveals the entire operational methodology of the island experiment.
How so?
Well, zodiac signs are not just a casual descriptor here. They function as a highly weaponized data compression tool.
A data compression tool.
Yes, they are a dense shorthand for the staggering complexity of human behavior.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Why use this specific mystical shorthand?
What do you mean?
I am trying to understand the underlying cognitive logic here. If you are running an isolated social experiment, why not categorize people by their Myers-Briggs personality types, or their attachment styles, or even just detailed psychological profiles?
It is a fair question.
Why reduce them specifically to zodiac signs?
It ultimately comes down to the cognitive load demanded by the environment. Think about the sheer volume of data contained within a single human being.
Oh, yeah. Their childhood experiences, their specific anxieties.
Exactly. Their unique defense mechanisms, their highly nuanced sense of humor. In the real world, it takes years to process that data and truly understand someone.
But a love island compresses time.
Completely. The environment demands immediate, high-stakes interaction. The human brain, when it is overwhelmed by high pressure and forced intimacy, desperately looks for heuristics.
It looks for cognitive shortcuts to conserve energy.
Exactly.
Right, so the brain just doesn't have the time or the bandwidth to process the nuance of 50 different complex personalities.
No, it cannot.
So it violently categorizes them just to make the environment navigable.
And by utilizing zodiac signs, the framework provides the ultimate ancient heuristic. It essentially deletes the individual and replaces them with an astrological archetype.
So instead of spending 8 months learning that someone is fiercely protective of their friends, but severely struggles with vulnerability and a need to control their environment.
You just stamp the word Scorpio on their forehead.
Yeah, and instantly assume you know the entire roadmap of their psyche.
It creates an immediate, highly legible framework for predicting behavior. It establishes an absolute baseline expectation.
Right.
The text implies a world where the water signs will invariably be deep and emotionally reactive, the fire signs will be volatile and passionate.
And the earth signs will be stubborn and grounded, while the air signs will be intellectual and evasive.
Exactly. It maps everyone out instantly.
Let's run a thought experiment on this, because the implications are actually wild when you put all these pieces together.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine a Leo and a Taurus placed on this island. In the real world, their inherent celestial friction might be manageable because they can just retreat to their own separate lives.
Right, they can take a break.
But on the island, the wind tunnel effect means that friction is totally inescapable. Are we just watching a predetermined chemical reaction?
That is the big question.
Does the phrase Love Island zodiac signs imply that the outcome of their interaction was entirely decided before they even met?
The phrasing flirts heavily with absolute determinism. It really suggests that human agency is a very thin veneer over cosmic programming.
It really does, because if the celestial compatibility is mathematically real, do these individuals actually possess free will once they step onto the sand?
It is doubtful.
If a Sagittarius and a Gemini are matched on this island, is their fate literally sealed by the 4 words of this document?
That is the most profound philosophical trap of the text. If you genuinely believe in the premise of celestial compatibility, then free will on the island is a complete illusion. The participants might feel the agonizing weight of making choices. They agonize over who to flirt with, who to trust, who to argue with.
But if their reactions are purely dictated by the unchangeable alignments of their zodiac signs, they aren't making choices at all.
No, they're just biological actors reading a cosmic script that they cannot see.
That is a staggering way to view human romance. It is beautiful, but also incredibly tragic.
Yeah.
They feel the chaotic thrill of discovering love, but mathematically, they're just solving an equation that was written a million years ago.
However, the cognitive shorthand of the zodiac introduces a really dangerous variable into this equation: confirmation bias.
Oh.
When you rely so heavily on a heuristic in a high-pressure environment, the label actually overwrites your perception of reality.
What do you mean? How does the label overwrite the reality of the actual person standing right in front of you?
Well, if you are told on day one that someone is a Gemini, and your cognitive shortcut tells you that Geminis are inherently duplicitous or two-faced, your brain will automatically filter every single action they take through that specific lens.
Right.
So if they just change their mind about what they want for breakfast, you do not see a human being making a simple choice.
You see the celestial manifestation of a two-faced Gemini.
Exactly. The shorthand becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, that is fascinating. The archetype becomes the only reality you are capable of perceiving.
Yeah, because you are trapped on the island. You cannot step back and gain a broader perspective. The label dictates the entire boundaries of the relationship.
It really makes you wonder how often you, listening to this, do the exact same thing in your own life.
We all do it.
When we are thrust into new, overwhelming environments, like starting a new job in a massive corporate office or attending some chaotic networking event, we instantly resort to categorizing people.
We label them to survive the cognitive overload.
It is a fundamental defense mechanism against the overwhelming complexity of other people.
It really is.
We put people into neat, easily digestible boxes because it creates a false sense of predictability. It makes the world feel safer.
But by clinging to those labels, we might be blinding ourselves to the actual breathing human being right in front of us.
And we are looking at the map instead of the landscape.
It is genuinely remarkable how much psychological density is compressed into these 4 words. The source material captures the ultimate contradiction of modern romance.
Right. We have the infinite, mystical, ancient wisdom of the stars crashing headfirst into a hypermodern, artificially constructed, brutally efficient social experiment.
Exactly.
We deeply desire the grand, sweeping fairy tale. We want the fated, written in the stars, celestial connection.
But we are desperately trying to force that infinite cosmic magic to reveal itself inside a highly restrictive artificial wind tunnel.
We want the boundless cosmos, but we are looking for it inside a vacuum chamber.
That is the perfect way to put it.
The entire tension of the source text, celestial compatibility of the island, Love Island zodiac signs, lies in that uncomfortable, gripping friction between infinite cosmic destiny and strict manufactured environmental control.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive staring at an almost impossibly short string of words, and we have ended up mapping out the absolute depths of how humans try to synthesize connection, isolation, and destiny.
I believe the most critical insight we can extract from this minimalist framework is a warning about the nature of the tools we use to understand each other.
A warning.
Yeah. Whether we find ourselves quite literally trapped in a manufactured environment, or if we're simply trying to survive the overwhelming, chaotic landscape of our day-to-day lives, concepts like zodiac signs and the dream of celestial compatibility are ultimately just navigational instruments.
They are compasses.
Right, they are compasses we use to try and chart a course through the vast, terrifying, and completely unpredictable ocean of human connection.
They provide us with a vocabulary when the emotional pressure is overwhelming and the variables are just too complex to process.
But we just have to be incredibly careful that we do not mistake the instrument for the truth.
Yeah.
The compass can help you find your way in the dark, but the compass is not the ocean itself.
The compass is not the ocean.
Yeah.
That perfectly encapsulates the danger and the beauty of these frameworks.
Thank you.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the architecture of love and isolation, I want to leave you listening right now with one final thought to explore on your own. Think back to the central paradox of this entire document, the contrast between the unchangeable stars and the highly controlled island.
Right.
If our romantic destiny is genuinely a physical law of the universe, if the celestial compatibility dictated by our zodiac signs is an absolute, immutable truth that cannot be broken, would the exact same 2 people fall in love the exact same way if they were stripped of their isolation?
That is the real test.
If you took the two most cosmically compatible people off the quiet beach of the Love Island and stranded them in the middle of a crowded, noisy, exhausting city, would the cosmic algorithm still work?
Yeah.
When the vacuum chamber is shattered and the noise of the real world rushes back in, does the environment dictate who we love, or do the stars?